Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we are going to be discussing mental manufacturing. So when you have your mind, right, how do you perceive your mind? The reason that I have the course, Modern Metaphysics, is because that there are 12 distinct qualities of mind that parallel the disciples of Scripture, meaning that once they are disciplined, you have a disciplined mind. That's where the root word disciple comes from, right? And remember, when we were on this channel, we described Scripture and other esoteric texts through the lexicon of understanding them as representations of states of consciousness, not as individualized stories, right? When you have a mind, it's a good thing, right? Because you are a thinker and a focuser, meaning that what you think about, you become, and what you focus on, you create. So if you can simply align those two aspects of yourself to focus on what I personally call a fulfillment reality, then you're able to create that, right? You think about somebody who is rich and all they do all day is worry, right? What do? They're using their God power to create worry and stress and disharmony in their life. No amount of money can save you from that because you are creating through who you are being in terms of, you could look at it through the lens of the mirror principle, right? If you want to change a picture in the mirror, you don't break the glass and rearrange it into a smile. You smile and then the mirror follows suit. So as you understand metaphysical reality, what you're really understanding is internal to external reality, meaning that your internal realms have ramifications through the states, internal stories, and mental movies that you have in what you would call your fourth dimensional realm, which is your realm of thought and or emotion. To break apart your dimensional spacing to accurately diagnose the different sectors of reality, you have an external world, which you could call a third dimensional realm, an already physicalized realm. You could call your internal realm a fourth dimensional realm, which is a more subtle realm, right? It's more malleable. You can think on the fly. You can change your thoughts immediately, whereas the external world is a little more crystallized. Then you could look at a fifth dimensional realm, which is your awareness and or your identity, right? So these things kind of line up in terms of you're looking through your fourth dimensional realm into a third dimensional realm. So that's why you can essentially overlay your imagination on top of what's already been created and then use it to persist in creating new things. So when you're mentally manufacturing something, right, you're working on three different aspects. You have your inner dialogue, which is your ability to tell a story about something. You have your feeling states, which are states that you hold chronically through your inhabitancy of them. And then you have mental movies as well. The best is when you can layer in all three of those things. So you have a mental movie with feeling states, feeling it as real now, with dialogue from individuals involved in it and or your own personal dialogue that is ascribing meaning to that thing as if it were the way that you want it to be, right? And the reason that you discipline this is because no matter what you do, you have your imagination and you have your mind running. So focusing your mind and your imagination on wanted things is called thinking righteously. It's not about moralism. It's not about doing good or whatever. It's about accurately thinking, right? And so when you accurately think, you are sending out vibratory resonances through the quantum field of you having what you want and being who you want to be, which is then reflected to reorient back to the mirror principle, right? So as you wake up and understand that your mind is causing your entire reality through the way you're feeling and the way you're thinking in terms of your body is an electromagnetic field, meaning that it magnetizes things to you. That's the whole premise of law of attraction, right? You want to attract things into your life. And you understand when you see somebody who's magnetic, right? You understand when you see a rock star, people are like, wow, that person is amazing. Why are they amazing? It's because they have a dominant vibratory field around them that is more magnetic than yours. So you get pulled into their orbit, right? It's like when people have themselves at the center of their reality, you can tell because they're centered in their own power. So as you understand these mechanics, you can start to apply them and leverage them for your own life, which is essentially manufacturing your reality from the internal outward, right? Which is pretty cool because you don't need anyone's permission to do it. And you're the only person that you live with 24/7. So if you have a really exceptional inner reality, nothing on the outside can really change you, right? So this is what we refer to as primary and secondary cause. Also, you could reference the law of assumption lexicon in terms of Neville Goddard's work regarding what he calls the pearl of great price, right? So when you purchase the pearl of great price, it is the most valuable thing because it purchases everything else. So that's understanding that your consciousness is really where you lay claim and lay your domain down, and everything else is layered on top of that, right? So when you have an understanding of consciousness, you just want to understand that consciousness is awareness, right? At its base function. Awareness, and that you are an identity. You're always going to be you. So when you have your awareness, you get to choose where to place your awareness. And by placing your awareness on certain things, you become the identity who is aware of that, which is really good to know because you just shift your awareness to what you want, right? So if I'm aware of things going well, thus, my identity is someone who has things going well for them. If I'm aware of scary, spooky things, I am identifying as a fearful person. So understanding that super basic functionality of that fifth and fourth dimensional correlative action of being able to place your identity on that inner space of what you want and hold it affixed means that the mirror principle will kick in your third dimensional reality, and it will be reflected to that, right? So what that does is that puts you in the power position of creating your reality and deletes the power that what we call second causation has over you, right? So when you have primary causation, it's what you're aware of, you're focusing in, the states that you're inhabiting, and your mental stories that you're telling yourself about something are being projected outwards, right? So if you have these projections going outwards, and then the external world is a latent reverberation of those internal creations, when you try to change the external world before changing the internal world, you're working at what's called second cause. So when you work at second cause, you're deleveraged because that thing's already been created, right? So if it's like, oh my God, I made 1,000 white coffee cups and they're supposed to be pink, right? You can go and you can spray paint all the things pink, but if you scratch below the surface, it's still a white coffee cup, right? So when you create something, you put the pink coffee cup in your head and you hold that image, and then that allows the entire universe to reconstruct itself around that mental image instead of going to the thing that was already created and trying to work at that deleveraged end, more gross state. Everything goes from subtle to gross, meaning that if you have a subtle mental dimension, it will be projected and crystallized into more gross dimensions in the same way that an architect has a picture for a house. That picture is in his fourth dimensional reality. He can move it and be malleable with it. He can change the brick to stone. He can change the type of house. He can change the tile roofing. He can change everything immediately like that, right? Super quick, super subtle, but it's not physicalized. So the more concentrated power you put onto that subtle image, the more magnetism the universe is going to have in terms of bringing what are called cooperative components. So that's another aspect of law of attraction, is your cooperative components and your point of attraction, right? So when you have a point of attraction, it's essentially your identity is vibrating at an individualized vibratory resonance, meaning that everything in life is a meetup. So when you're meeting up with people, places, circumstances, and events, it's not randomized. It's based on who you are and what that frequency is, right? If you understand that, successful people hang out with successful people, people who complain all the time hang out with other complainers, you know somebody who dates the same type of guy, dates the same type of girl, it's because their frequency's at that radio station, right? And so they keep running into those things. So when you're thinking, oftentimes you're not looking to change the already physicalized reality, you're looking to shift your own point of attraction by putting all of your intention and energy into a fulfillment reality. So if you chronically are running into things that are non-fulfilling, or like, this is never working, etc., right? That's a token sign of a non-fulfillment reality within you that you're aware of chronically. It's an emotional pattern, right? So as you begin to realize that the cause is internal, it's really good because now you have total control, meaning that, you can shift that internal reality to focus on as if it's the way you want it to be now and hold that assumption that it is that way, right? So when you go to law of assumption, back to Neville Goddard, you're holding an affixed assumption, meaning that you are saying the world is like this, but you understand that the external world has already been crystallized from your previous state that was not the new one that you are now assuming is to be true. So you don't expect anything from the external world immediately because you understand that it's a reflection. It's the second cause. It's not the primary cause, right? So when you have primary cause, you're holding that new assumption, and every single time the world shows you a reflection from that old state, you are denying it. You're going, no, that's not it. It is this. And you're reorienting your focus to your imagined end as if it's true now, which is essentially what you would categorize as fourth dimensional thinking. Because when you're thinking fourth dimensionally, you're operating your thoughts from that fourth dimensional realm being pushed outwards. When you're thinking third dimensionally, you're just seeing what's been created, and you're always externalizing yourself going down a linear pathway because the carrot on the stick is always moving. So you're always chasing, you're always going external. Well, maybe if I have this, maybe if I have that, right? No, you're going to the end as if you wanted it the way you want it right now in your mind, and you're holding that assumption. You're saying, no, you move, right? That's what moves mountains. That's the concept of faith. So faith is loyalty to an unseen reality, meaning that when you are aware of an unseen reality, you can hold a fulfillment or a non-fulfillment unseen reality. And you do this all the time for things that you don't want, right? Like, oh no, this is going to be expensive. This is going to be bad. You're just accepting that thought and emotional pattern and mental story and mental imagery before the actual thing has occurred, which is actually perfect manifestation. Manifestation just means unseen to seen, okay? So now what you're doing is, instead of being unconscious about it, you're consciously moving that awareness and accepting that things are working the way you want it to from that internal, super high leverage position in that fourth and fifth dimensional space. I am who I want to be now internally, not worried about this right now because that's a latent reflection. So here's where the power position is. I'm going to stay in the power position and project power, right? This is working the way I want it to. This is going the way I want it to. I'm so happy and grateful now, right? And as you chronically train your vibration into that, your vibratory resonance and your electromagnetic field are what you carry with you all the time. So once again, right, law of attraction, go back, reorient to that. You're always meeting up with things. So is it better to have someone give you something one time, or is it better to be the magnet for that thing wherever you go? Much better to be the magnet for that thing wherever you go, because now you're infinitely supplied, because everywhere you go, the universe has to reflect that internal state within which you're dwelling. So this is super legit, because wherever you go, you carry that state with you and it just keeps pouring in. That's the premise of abundance, right? You don't get enough external stuff to be abundant. You become abundance internally through resonating and oscillating at that frequency. So wherever you go, you're provided for and things are coming in, or you have a specific person or whatever, right? You create that reality internally, you dwell in it, you assume it's true now, and you deny the external five senses on that third dimensional plane, because you understand that they are reverberations of the more subtle reality, which is where your higher leveraged power's at. So I know you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to check out the link tree for the Modern Metaphysics Protocol and the Spartan 1 Human Optimization Protocol. Both are amazing and have coaching with me. Modern Metaphysics is 6 coaching calls, as well as the course, which focuses on the 12 disciplined aspects of mind. It's essentially laying the groundwork for understanding metaphysics at a very high level. Spartan 1 is more about the physical body and your human optimization experience. So everything from getting very high levels of mental clarity to biological age in your body being perfect to reducing and healing injuries, all of that good stuff, because what is the point of doing any of this if your body is not very cool, right? So I know you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave comments of videos you would like to see in future videos. And the most important thing that I have to say today is go conquer. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.